Welcome to the Model Car Hobby Podcast with your host, Luka C. Now here he is, Luka C. All right, well, hello, my fellow car modelers. How are you doing today? This is, kind of a new restart of this series that I've been doing over the years called the Unpodcast, but I guess we can't call it that anymore. It's really a podcast because we are on Spotify and other streaming services. So this is now the Luka C, or should I this is new, so forgive me. This is going to be now called, as it said at the beginning, the Model Car Hobby Podcast. And my first guest of this new version of the show is Chris Martin, right there. Say hi,
Hello.
Chris. If you don't know who Chris is, if you don't know Chris, he's one of our good modeling buddies, way up there in Canada. You know, way past, even farther than Bat Redmond.
Oh, yeah. Way here in the snow.
You're way up there in the snow in Nova Scotia, dude?
Oh, no. Nova Scotia's a little farther. I'm a little closer than that.
Oh, okay. Where are you located?
New Brunswick.
Oh, New Brunswick. Yeah. Yes, I come from close to the Buffalo, New York area is where I grew up. So
okay.
I relate to Canada pretty good, and we had pretty much the same weather when the lake.
Oh, no. Buffalo has way worse than we have.
Yeah, I got the lake away. Well, I was south of Buffalo, so I didn't get it as bad as Buffalo usually, but it was bad enough to know I know your pain. And also, we were so close to the Canadian border that our money back then used to mix. I mean, it was very common, especially change. If I had Canadian nickels and quarters and stuff, I could still use those at the store.
Oh yeah,
it never was a big deal. But and then we used to go up there into Ontario, Canada, all the time, and go to the sites and things up there, up by Niagara Falls. So yeah, Canada, welcome to the show, Chris. Now, for those of you who don't know who Chris is and why I invited him, Chris, I don't know how long it's been. A couple of years. You've been one of my producers.
Yeah,
you've been supporting my channel. And that is something that I super, super appreciate. So always my producers, which is all you guys, I really want to have a podcast with all of you. I was going to kind of give you guys a message about that, but it's something I'm very grateful for. And I really make a point of all my, especially long running people. I like to become friends with them, and I have become personal. Some of them I've met in person. I haven't been able to meet you in person on account of you're way over there, I'm way over here. But we'll probably meet like at Atlanta or one of those shows one of these days. That'll be cool.
Oh yeah.
But not only that, Chris, and we've been talking for years. We have a huge love in this hobby of model cars that really gets our goat going, doesn't it? This the history of the kits and and what the hobby was like in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, the people that were involved with the history of the hobby. And he has a really, really great, it's just a website, and it's called the Sprue. And how can you get to it? And there'll be in the description below a link to it. It's the what's the thing? The Sprue.
Yeah, it's Sprue.xyz.
There you go, and that means XYZ. You Yankees, because those Canadians they say
what have
Z.
You done to our language?
They say 280 Z. So
the 28 Camaro.
Yeah. So we enjoy that lost track of my brain. Let me put it back in my head. The Sprue is a really, really great website. You got to go check it out because he has excellent articles on the history or the birth and the history of certain model kits and how they evolved over the years. He's like, scale mates on crack. Actually, you take what ScaleMates does, you correct it, and
I
oh, did I
do.
say that?
I
Did I
do.
say that out loud? I think I did.
Well,
Eh,
the whole thing about ScaleMates is that it's a, it's an open source database where,
yeah,
user
like
created
Wikipedia.
content. Yes, exactly. So when I see something wrong, I go try to fix it. And if I'm trying to figure
Yeah,
something out, I
yeah,
go and see it's like, okay, is this related to this? To touch
yeah,
back on something that we talked about earlier when you were looking at that Revell Lancia Stratos, it's like, okay, it's a Revell kit from the 70s. It's 24th scale. Math ain't mathin'. Revell didn't tool this. Where did it come from? So then you have to do a little bit of digging to see, oh,
and
this
that's
is
what you do.
actually,
That's your fun you have, huh?
yeah, oh, yeah. I really
Yeah,
get into that, try to figure it out.
yeah, and now you're bringing that to YouTube. You have your YouTube channel, the Model Car Review or Model Car Review. How do you say it
It
there so
Yeah,
they can get to it?
model car review. Um,
Which there,
unfortunately, it's
I'll
been a
have a
little bit
link to it.
dormant, but
Yeah,
I'm
it's,
hoping to get some more videos going up.
it takes time. So
Yeah,
I
it does.
if this is a subject that you're going to do, I'm going to definitely enjoy it. So, and I just want to get here's an opportunity for everybody who might not know who you are, meet you, find out something about you. There might be a little surprise at the end. But anyways,
Me.
that's about all I got to say at this point. I am going to ask the question. I'm going to let you give the answer, and I'm going to shut up. Believe it or not. I know everybody out there. Okay, so Chris, first of all, what got you in the hobby? When did you? What was there a certain kit? What got you in the hobby? When did you start? And then what got you into wanting to do what you do with the website and your channel? And just tell the whole story.
Well, I got into the hobby as a young kid. Oh, geez, it was probably like 7 or 8 when I started, and as sometimes tends to happen with this kind of a hobby, I got into it because my dad used to do it when he was a kid. So uh, I guess when I got to a certain age that he thought I was able to start building models, because he had, tale as old as time. He built models as a kid, and then he got older, discovered other interests, and kind of got away from it. But so he got me into building the very first kit that I ever built that he got for me. It was a Revell 1/32 scale 69 Mustang. So that was the first kit
Oh,
we ever built. I put it together and it was great. Played with it for a little while, and then I wanted it. It was molded in red, and I didn't like it red, and I wanted it to be a different color. So we took it apart, and he painted it for me, rattle cans, and then we put it all back together, and then I had a blue '69 Mustang. So we started with that, and then I started getting more and more glue kits. And the big thing that I would do at the time when I was growing up is the because I didn't have a lot of kits at the time. So I got some rebuilders from family and friends. And when I built a model, it was never done. So I would, you know, build it, brush paint it, testers, square bottle paints, and it would stay that way for, a few weeks, maybe a month, and then I would rip it all apart. And of course, I didn't know anything about stripping paint or anything at the time. So just another layer of paint, and oh,
yeah.
looks nice. I'll
Oh
just
yeah.
kind of
I
slap
did
this
that too.
decal on here, and
Yeah.
so that's just kind of how it started. And then I would start buying more and more kits. And it was a little bit easier at the time to get into the hobby because more stores carried it. Like you could go to a pharmacy or a department store or whatever, and you could buy some models. So that's what I would do. I'd get some money for an occasion, a birthday or holiday, something like that, and I would go buy some models and build them. And I don't know at what point, at what age I was, maybe when the models started to stay built. So eventually I progressed to a point where it's like, okay, I painted it and I built it and it's going to stay that way. I'm not going to take it apart and repaint it. If I want to build that subject in a different color, I'll just get another kit. And it's kind of one of those things where, and maybe I'm kind of a bit of an outlier, I guess, in the community, in that although the amount of building that I do has come and gone over the years, it's not something that I ever got out of. So it's like I've always been involved. Like I've always been building, although very slowly lately, especially. Um, I've always been building ever since I started when I was, you know, like 7 or 8, and I just kept going and going. And at some point, once I and it was always kind of a solo endeavor. I didn't know too many people that also built models and still built models. I didn't get involved with a club, like a local club with other people, and start going to shows until I was in university, because that's when I found out about a local club. And then starting to get involved in online communities, and finding more people that shared the interest. And what really got me interested in the history of kits, uh, let's see here. At some point in time, I was building, uh, what was it? I think it was Chevy square body pickups. So I was really interested in those, and I was trying to find different versions of the kit. And I had purchased on eBay a lot. It was a whole rebuilder lot of pickup kits. So there was Chevy pickups, Ford pickups. I think there was like some Blazers or something in this big lot of kits. And I was specifically looking for, at the time, I think the reason why I bought the lot was because it had a Revell, like the, not the Revell, sorry, the Monogram 1980 Ford pickup. So I was trying to find one of those, and I got this lot. And at the time, I knew about the Monogram uh, Chevy pickup, the square body. I knew about that kit and and I had known about that, and I had also known about the Revell 25th scale square body pickup. I had no idea about the MPC version. I didn't know it existed. And then I got this built up lot, and it had a couple of those MPC 25th scale square body trucks. And I was like, what is this? I've never seen this before. So then I started looking into it. And that's when I discovered that there was the three model companies, MPC, Monogram, and Revell, that all built kits of the same subject. And they were all different. They didn't share any parts together. So
Let me
that,
let me ask you real quick. About what year was this that this happened?
oh, that probably would have been like 2010, 2011.
Oh, okay. So just to go back real quick to get a reference, what year? Let's say when you started getting serious about model building, around what year was that?
That probably would have been like 04, 05.
Oh, really? See,
Is when I
I found that really interesting because the conversations you and I have had over these months that we've been talking and talking about kits, I was assuming, I mean, you spoke like you have been in the hobby like as long as I have, where I've been in it since the mid 80s. So I have a lot of my knowledge just because of natural osmosis, just
right.
being in it as heavy as I've been in it. And then at an early time, like towards the late 80s, I became friends with these older guys that were into the models in the 60s. And I was very interested in all the history and the subject matter, going over to their houses and seeing all the kits from the 60s and 70s in their room. And so you starting out to me 2004. I was, I've been doing it for a while at that point. So that's I just find that pretty interesting that you caught up to me in half the time. So yeah, that's cool, man.
Well, I
That's
mean,
awesome.
I myself am only from the mid '80s, right? So
Yeah. So
I had
so
I had to
you're
play
yeah,
catch up.
you're not an older guy like me.
Well, and
That's
like I
interesting.
and I seem to remember I got a box of rebuilder kits from um one of my friend's dad at the time, because I think he was the only person that I knew as an adult when I was, like 9, 10 years old. He was the only person that I had ever come across that was an adult that built models as well. So he had this box of models that he had built, you know, from when he was a kid up until then. And so he gave me the box of kits that he had built. And that lot was my first experience with the AMT 1940 Ford. So
Oh,
in that box of built kits that he had given me was the coupe, and
what
also there, so
what box art?
no box.
Oh,
I
okay.
never had the box. But it was black plastic.
Oh, okay. I know
Um,
which one it is.
that probably narrows it down
Yeah,
uh, a
that's a
little
little
bit.
bit early. That's probably early '80s. Well, it also would depend. There
And
was like two black ones. There was one that would have the underneath the hood would have the bell shape that everybody hates.
that it heads that one.
Okay, then that would be the '80 ones. If it was the '70 ones, there would be no bell. That's like a desirable hood for that kit. A lot of people
No,
don't
it,
know
it
that, huh?
has it has the bell.
Okay.
So there was the coupe, and so there was the AMT 40 Ford, and also the apparently somewhat rare and desirable 36 Ford three window. So I have a
Hmm.
three window body, and it wasn't until, I'm probably going to say, 10 years, at least 10 years after, like, I had the kit and I had been playing with it, built it, rebuilt it a few times. The AMT 37 Chevy. I didn't know what that car was because, like I said, it came as a built up in a box with a whole bunch of other cars that were built. I never had the box. I didn't know what it was. My dad didn't know what it was. He's like, I don't know what that car is, because it didn't have all of the pieces. Like, I think it was missing like the hood sides and the headlights. So I didn't know, there was no badging, anything like that. So I didn't know what it was until I came across pictures of them built up on like message boards. It's like, oh, it's AMT 37 Chevy, because that kit wasn't. It was a long gap in between reissues. I think between for when that was released again. So since then, I actually built one with a recent reissue. Um, but yeah, so like, uh, and that's another thing that's been kind of like, for a lot of us young folks, I guess you might say, some of these
Ouch.
vintage. Well, the only way that we can have access to some of these vintage kits is to buy built ups and to tear them down, strip the paint, and rebuild them again,
Yeah,
because they haven't been in production for years. And until they get to either a reissue or a
yeah.
clone or whatever,
Love
the only
built
way we're going
ups.
to get it is to get a built up.
Yeah, I
And so
just got a
that's,
hold of one. I just got a hold of one last weekend. That was a '66 Mercury Comet.
oh,
Yeah, so I thought, what the heck?
well, why not, right?
Yeah, when are you gonna find that kit?
Never.
Yeah, I'd say.
And if you do find it, you might have to sell an organ to buy
Mm-hmm. I'm out of
it.
organs.
Yeesh.
But yeah, so yeah, that's definitely true, man. And well, in the conversation we were having, we're going to put it at the end of this. We were having a conversation before about the people like us who have lots and lots of kids. It's like, even
Ah.
today, I was sifting through some old kit collection over at Andy's that was like leftovers he had stashed away we had forgot about, and we're like, oh gosh, look at these treasures, and it's just like, oh gosh, I saw a couple things. Do I want it? Do I? But if I do want it, I wouldn't have been able to get it because somebody else bought it and put it on the shelf for 30 years. We get these opportunities to get old kits because there's people like us which is majority of the people in this hobby. We buy kits and we have total intention of building them, and we know that we'll never build all these, but when I'm ready to build it, I know it's there and I can go grab it.
Well, and another one of my little quirks about all of these kits too is when you approach a kit as not necessarily, it's like, oh, this is a kit, this must be built as you see it on the box. When you approach them as this kit is a box of parts, it can be built as what you see on the box, or you can use these parts in something else. So when you have a huge collection like this, you are not limited to what comes in the box. And so you can rub parts from one or the other and try to make something that is either more accurate or a different configuration to what was put in the box. But on the flip side, one thing that I have been discovering is that every once in a while, I will get the notion in my brain that it's like, oh man, I'm really not going to build all of these, am I? I wonder what I could stand to get rid of. Like, to go all Marie Kondo sometimes, it's like, does this bring me joy? No, it doesn't really bring me joy. I could probably stand apart with this. And so then you grab the box and you start looking through it. It's like, I can't sell this. There's stuff missing. I don't
Yeah.
remember taking this out of here. Back on
Yeah.
the shelf it goes.
Been there, done that way too many times. How about this? Have you ever, okay, I need to, thin the herd a little bit because I know I'm going to be buying more and I need to make room to put those new kits coming. I'm going to go through and I'm going to take, some extras that I have and this, or maybe I can live without that. Box it all up, go to a swap meet, sell it all. Doesn't even take a tip of the iceberg off. You end up looking back and it's like, I still don't have any room. And then it's like, man, there's some of those kits I wish I didn't sell. Do you have that withdrawal?
Okay,
I
so
wish I had that kit.
okay. Tell me if this has ever happened to you.
Okay.
So, a few times I've had the opportunities to buy, to either buy or has given to me someone's collection of kits. So, and it's usually not a lot, like, 10, 20 kits, someone's entire collection. Entire collection. I know
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of funny, right? So, I remember I acquired one of these collections at some point, and my interests at the time that I got these kits, there were some of them that I was not interested in. So when the opportunity came for me to sell some, it's like, I'll never build this. I have no interest in this. So I'm going to take this Larry Morgan Superstock Oldsmobile and I'm going to sell it. Fast forward 15, 20 years later, guess what Chris is looking for on eBay? I'm looking for that super stock olds again,
Oh, that
and I
super
have to
clean.
pay out the nose for it.
Yeah, that super clean one.
So
Huh?
yeah, the super clean car.
It's
So
it's a good thing you can't see farther that way.
yeah, how many
Oh,
super cleans and Jegs cars do you have?
four super cleans, one Jegs, one. I know I got bags somewhere. what was the other one? The Larry Morgan one, not Larry Morgan. The Good Wrench one, or what the heck?
Oh yeah, yeah.
The Professor, Warren Johnson. Warren Johnson.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I've got.
No, yeah.
I mean, some of those kits have been rated or built into something else or all that, but yeah, those Oldsmobiles were cool pro stocks. And but the thing is like I remember when they were all over the place, and there was no big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I did the same thing. I had a bunch of kits, and I just I don't. It's not that big of a deal, and I let go some monogram Fox Body Mustangs, the SVO, and the '93 Cobras, and I all of a sudden now that in the past 7 years I've gotten heavy into the Fox Body Mustangs, obviously, and I have come to the determination that those 24 scale monograms are pretty much king. They're really awesome, and if you get enough of them, you can do some swapping around and make kits that weren't ever done of different Fox bodies. So I'm going, I need those kits now, and I've slowly collected up. I got a couple of the convertible GT, so I can get some of the GT parts off. I need a '93 Cobra so that I can put the GT parts on that, just make it into a GT. And then I want the SVO because I want a couple of those now because. So now I'm hunting for those, and now those things are desirable and they're expensive. And it's just like, as a matter of fact, our buddy BG Brian he's at the NNL West right now as we're recording this, and he called me because he says, "Are there any model kits you're looking for?" And I said, "93 Cobra from Monogram and the 85 SVO," and he found a sealed one for $30 of the SVO. He says, "This you want that, right?" And I said, yeah.
Shut up and take my money.
Oh, thank you, buddy. Thank you so much. So I got one of those. And it's like, so now I just need one more of those, two more 93s, but I picked up a few of the other monogram Fox bodies to get basically to take pieces and parts and make ones that were never done. And, this is such we evolve, our interests evolve.
Oh, yes.
And that creates more to the stash because like there was a time I was a Camaro guy, and so from my head here to there, that's all Camaros right there, right about there. That's all Camaros.
Oof.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now I'm a Mustang guy because I'm silly like that. If you would have said that to me 15 years ago, I said, "Oh no, it's not going to be like that. I'm going to always be into those Camaros. I'm still into them. They're not for sale. It's just now I want Mustang. I add. I don't subtract."
Yeah, well, and I mean that. Yes or no, is your interest in Mustang models related to what's in your driveway?
Yeah, it is. Lots of times. Oh, I had an old buddy of mine, one of the old model car guys when I joined the club and met when I was young, and he was an influence. When I met him, he was building in his garage. He was building a 40 Ford, totally into 40 Fords. I would have said he was probably a Ford guy. And then one day, he never finished the 40 Ford, and he sold it off and got a lot of money for it back then. This was probably early '90s. He did this, early mid '90s. He sold his 40 Ford, and he went out and bought a running, driving, beautiful '55 Pontiac. I think it was a two-door coupe. Beautiful car. All of a sudden, everything he had was he was only into Pontiac. He was collecting up everything you could imagine. One of his he had promos, model kits. He had a bunch of cards from race teams that were Pontiac race team. What do you call that? The promotional cards and stickers and just everything. You go in and went to his garage, everything was Pontiac. It was like, what about Ford? What? What? Don't talk about the brand
What's
X.
That? What? No, don't speak that word in here ever again.
Yeah, and then like a few years later, he went and he bought a '55 station wagon he found to match up with his coupe. Oh man, but yeah, you're right. When we get heavy into the vehicles that we really have, lots of times.
And another big driver I've found, since I've started Well, since I started the article, so the current incarnation of my website with all my articles on it has not been around as long. Um, I think it's only probably been around 4 or 5 years. Um, I started posting my articles on a message board, and uh, when it comes to the message boards, the articles tend to become less visible over time. So
Yeah.
there's the initial interest when I first post it, and then it gets buried in the message board, and it doesn't get some new attention. And sometimes it can be harder to find when people are asking questions about a specific kit, and I have to go and try to find the old article, and it's like, oh, hey, I wrote up an article about this. um, and then another couple other things that happened. The message board kind of disappeared for a couple of months, and
Oh,
nobody knew where it went or if it was ever going to be coming back. So it's just like, oh man, I have all these articles that are on this message board and now they're gone. Am I ever going to see it again? And like, I still,
oh,
some of the articles that I had posted, I had the text copied somewhere else, because like I would write it.
okay. So
um,
you had copies of these articles, right?
some of them, but not all. And
Oh,
and
that's
then
horrible.
and then the message board did end up coming back. And then the real driving instance was when I started becoming more like, I started following more people on social media about this kind of a vehicle or that kind of a vehicle. And I was following an account on Instagram that was all about square body Chevys. And one day they did a series of posts that was copy and paste of my article on all three of the model kits of the square body Chevy. And there was no attribution to me at all anywhere. And so I reached out to this account, and I was like, hey, I wrote that article. You got it from this message board. Here's the link. Would appreciate a credit, maybe. And so that kind of really pushed me in the direction of, okay, I need to create my own website that has all of these articles on it, all of the pictures, all of the text, and that I can link to it when somebody comes across it. Because at at a certain point, it becomes a little clunky if you're going across different platforms, like different message boards, or if you're on Facebook or other kinds of social media, and you link back to, say, a thread on a message board somewhere. It's like, hey, if you want to read about this kit, go over here. So that's why I created my website. And the articles that are on it, I want to kind of temper some people's expectations that it's not exactly exhaustive. I don't cover everything. Some of the articles are based on um, people asking questions about a specific kit at some point in time. And it's like, oh, that's kind of interesting. So then I'll start to go look into it to answer someone's question and end up writing an article. Um, Another thing that influences my articles is if I go and I buy a kit, or I'm given a kit, and it's like, oh, this is a really cool kit. I didn't know anything about this. So, like, for example, I came across a store that was selling a bunch of models. They had bought out a collection for somewhere. So like, it wasn't a hobby shop. It was like I think it was a surplus store, and they had bought out someone's collection and they were selling it. And one of the kits that I had saw, because I think they posted an ad on social media and they had some pictures of their kits. And one of them was the Model King release of the Pro Stock Firebird. Uh, what I forget what the kit was called, but anyway, I'd never heard of it before. So I started, like, I got the kit and I started looking into it. And I think it was during my research for that is how I actually came across your channel. because you had done a video about the
Yeah.
comparing the original Rare Morrison Camaro
Yep.
and the 2018 release of the the Frank
Frank
Iacono.
Iacone one. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, and pointing out the differences, and you're
I
like, "Oh, this
remember
is."
that.
Yeah, it's like the 2018 issue, it's like, okay, they changed the chassis to fit the different, like, the Firebird body, and I was like, "That's where this kit came from."
Yeah.
So then I
Yeah.
ended up researching, and I wrote the article on that, and I ended up going and buying all the other not all the other kits, I got
Yeah. There's
the
quite a
Rare
few of them.
Morton Camaro, and I have the Firebird, and I think I have the Mean and Nasty Camaro. But I don't have the STP Firebird or the White Lightning. I really want to try to get a White Lightning because that was
Oh,
like that
you know
one
that
that
story
one
I
kit
told.
only.
Yeah, that story I told you just a little bit earlier about selling a bunch of kits. Thought I could live without. A White Lightning was one of those. The only upshot to the White Lightning is a very, very good friend of mine who was wanting one, got it. My buddy, the Don, Dave Bell. So it doesn't hurt
I
as bad. But yeah, I look at my two White Lightnings I have over there, and I have built one. And it's in bad shape. So I thought, well, I've got that. I can always break it down. But yeah, oh boy,
right.
oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, they are hard. It's crazy how hard they are to find. There was a time I can't tell you how many of those White Lightnings I bought just to cut up.
Oof.
Yeah, they were all over the place. They were nothing. And there was a time that really even the pro stock guys didn't want them. Guys who were building like pro stocks and stuff, they didn't want them. But
Well,
yeah,
it's not depending on what it is that you're trying to build.
yeah,
If you just need certain components, you don't need the body, you don't need the chassis. It's like,
yeah,
oh, this is just a collection of parts that I can use
yeah.
for other builds.
The
But
the thing
fast
the thing
forward
about
to
that,
today,
yeah, go on.
and it's like that's the only release of that year
Right.
of Firebird.
Yes, that was what I was going to say. That you never think about it, and I can't believe it's the only release they ever did. That is the only 85 Firebird that they did, a version of the 85 year. Because when they did the next Firebird they did was the Pennzoil and the STP, and that was like the 89 version. That was totally different
Yep.
nose grab. And the one thing is, if you ever did you say you have you ever looked at one of those? The
No.
STP, or that is a horrible body. I would never build that body. I got bought a couple of those kits for the chassis. Those I definitely did that for, because that body, they did something weird to it. They made it very flat sided, and really tall to like, so it like makes it look lower. I don't know. They did something weird. It looks all cattywampus, so I don't like it. But yeah, that is so strange. But those were the cool looking pro stock Firebirds, were the 85, 86, 80, yeah, 85 to 88. And
Oh yeah.
man, that White Lightning, yeah, it's the only way you can get it. The one thing you got to do with that White Lightning is you got to fill in the put mark, because remember it was supposed to be Pro Street wing.
Uh-huh.
Um, so they put marker lights on it, which is, oh man, you got to fill those marker lights in. But at least
Oh
we got
well.
the Firebird, right?
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
that you
Well,
contacted me that's when you first contacted me, was when you're doing that article, right? I seem to
yeah, I
recall
think it
you did
was.
that. Hey, do you mind if I take some of the information or something, you asked me, which was really
Yeah, and
cool.
I and I
That was
and I
cool you did
wanted
that.
to I think I linked to your video on
Yeah,
those kits in my article.
yeah, and
Because there was that, and someone else had a scan of the instruction sheet from one of the original issues at the time. So I
right.
linked to them too. And because sometimes, like, well, for example, my article on the uh, MPC and AMT, the 67 to 72 Chevy pickups, when I wrote that article, I had never put hands on any of those kits. So I had to scour the internet, well, the internet of 14 years ago, to try to find
Ah,
pictures of the box art, of the instructions, of like what's in the box. And I I think I wrote the entire article and posted it on the message board. And it wasn't until after I had done that and people started commenting on it that I found out that there were actually two separate kits. There was an AMT kit and an NPC kit. I When I wrote the article, I was under the assumption that I was like, there's no way that there could be two completely separate toolings, right? Like maybe they just, swap back and forth with whoever had the promo contract at the time. I didn't know. And then people were like, no, there's two separate kits. NPC did theirs, AMT did theirs, and then because another thing that people that are new to the hobby might not know, that I didn't know at the time, was that when it comes to a company like Round 2, AMT, NPC, Lindbergh, these were all separate companies. And now they're all part of the same ownership umbrella. And so you assume that, it's like, okay, because this box says AMT or it says Revell on it, you know, that's who made this kit. And it's like, well, this one was actually built by this company originally, and it's unrelated to this other kit. And that was another one of my driving forces behind doing the articles, was to, it's like, okay, yes, this is the brand on the box now. That's not what it always was. And, this kit is actually from X amount of years ago and it was done this way. So to try to keep track of stuff like that is another one of the interests behind my articles. And I'm hoping, one of my visions for my YouTube channel, hopefully when I can start getting some more videos done, is some, like, not everybody learns the same way. For example, okay, um, at the time I did the articles because that was, well, I'm not going to claim complete knowledge of the topic, but I'm going to say when I started writing the articles, there wasn't a YouTube. Like, people weren't doing videos on
right.
YouTube about
Yeah.
model cars. So that's
And the,
why I did text-based articles. And I think at the time when I started writing them, I didn't have, like, in my little neck of the country, high-speed internet wasn't really a thing. So streaming video content wasn't something we could do anyway. So, but now, fast forward to today, it's like, okay, some people are great with reading an article, looking at some pictures, and finding out information about stuff. And a lot of people are very visual learners and they want to see like a video, and if you want to see side by side comparisons. So, going forward, what my intent to do is when I write an article about a kit series. So, for example, the one that I've been working on for a while is the uh, GMT 400 pickups. So there's big explosion with those trucks,
oh yeah.
and because they're becoming very collectible, like the actual trucks. And then with AMT doing the two new clone subjects of the dually and the essentially the 454 SS pickup. Um, I have a whole whack of those kits, the original glue kits from NPC. I have a whole bunch of promos, and I have the new versions. I have two. I have two of each of them. And the first thing I did when I got one of those, I think the first one I got was the dually. I got the dually first, and then I got the 1500 later. But first thing I did when I got home with it was I ripped open the box and then I grabbed one of the promos and I was comparing them side by side. And it's like, oh, this is what they did different. There's a little bit of detail that's different here and there. And I want to do videos showing
Yeah.
It's like, okay, here's an original, here's the new one. This is what they did different. Did they do this better, worse? Leave that up to you. But to show the differences and you know, so that's kind of what I want to do going forward. But one of the things that's going to end up meaning is that when I do an article, I need to actually have the kits. Whereas
Yeah.
when I first started, I could do the articles without having the whole uh, family tree, I guess you would call it. Like, okay,
Yep.
starting with an original issue all the way up to whatever is available now. Now, maybe I might be able to, like, borrow kits from somebody and say,
Yeah.
oh, hey, you have this kit. Can I borrow this for like a couple of months so I can do some videos or take some pictures and write an article about it so that I can compare things because I don't know what it is, and I'm sure. I mean, I think you feel the same way. It's like looking at the differences in the kit contents. It's like, okay, this issue has this in it. This issue has this in it. What did they change? And I mean, there are other YouTubers that I watch that do those
What?
kind of things where they do.
What? Wait a sec.
I
What?
know.
There's other YouTubers you watch? Oh,
Oh,
come on.
oh, come on, Luca. We've been over this before. It's the model car YouTuber cinematic universe.
All right. All right. All right.
A
I'll
lot of
put my
these are
ego
based in
aside.
the same part of the country too. That's kind of weird,
Isn't
right?
that weird?
But yeah, I mean, the other folks do that where
Oh yeah.
they'll do a video and they compare. It's like, okay, here's the newest release, and this is so this has changed. You look like a micro like a micro, not like microscope, but micro scale look at things. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
look at this tree. These parts are different, and the more you know about the hobby, the more you know about the actual manufacture of kits, how the tooling's designed, how things
Exactly.
go together in the molding machines. You can pick up, it's like, okay, this tree is built this way. There's a gate here. This comes out, different inserts. You can see witness marks on the body. Um, like, for example, if you look at the Revell early Broncos, and you look at the two different bodies. So there's the stock body, and then there's the Bill Strope version.
Hmm.
And you look on the inside of the body, and you can see where the inserts are to do the rear wheel wells. So just like little
Yeah.
nitty gritty stuff like that, really geek out about it.
Yeah.
I find it
That's
so
the thing.
fascinating.
That's the thing. People, I don't find a lot of guys a lot of model builders that are like that. That's where you and I get along so well. And I always found that fascinating. I look in, you look under, that a certain model has been retooled from an earlier version, and you look in there and you can see where they had welded up and reground and the inserts and stuff like that. And yeah, they have to do that, and it's like Salvino's there. I was talking to Rick a few days ago, and he was kind of really explaining what's happening to the 2023 Mustang and Toyota. They have to save
Oh
money.
yeah.
Where, well, no, unfortunately, it kills the chances of ever having the 2003 kits ever again. But they got to move forward, and
Yes.
so there's changes that can and have been made, and I always find that fascinating, where you can see how it all kind of clipped together, what they've done to change a kit from one year to another.
Yeah.
Oh, the 67 MPC 67 GTO, and then it morphed into the 70, and then it morphed into the 72, and oh no, when they did the 70 and they went back to doing the 67, how dare they leave the 70 nose in the 67 kit? AMT, what a terrible company. They did, yeah. It's just like
Oh
there's
well.
reasons for that. It's
Yeah.
it's
There's
just
there's
it's
reasons for
just
that,
yeah.
and
There's it. Well, it's just a, like, for instance, on that 67 GTO, that 70 nose being in there, that is just a side effect of trying to update kits, but also be able to bring them back. Lots of times, if they could retool a whole new body and use the rest of the kit, and then that way they could go back and still do the old version. That was always cool. Where look at all the 74 to 77 Camaros, both MPC and AMT, because they had to update them to a 78. We lost those
Yep.
forever.
Oh yeah, they're gone. Well,
because the cars were too
let's not
similar.
say forever.
Let's not say forever. I won't say forever. I got a funny feeling. Just like that's what happened to the 71 Demon. In 72 or 73, they retooled that to a Duster or a Dart. It's that hideous 75 Dart.
The Dart Sport, yeah.
But and that's what we were stuck with for decades. And finally, the wonderful round 2, the cloning. How great is that? We got a 71 Demon again. So round 2, 75 Camaro.
Please add it to your wish list.
I mean, my kit, and I'm going to start producing them again soon. My conversion kit has always done really well. Has made me lots of money. Well, not so much. I hunt tens of hundreds, and it's but I've sold a ton of those over the years, and it's given people an opportunity to build a model of a 74, 75 Camaro. But if round 2 comes out with a cloned, retooled version of a 74 or 75 Camaro, and that kills me ever making those, I'm fine with that, man. That's great for our hobby. Oh, I'll take it.
You'll take that sacrifice to be able to get
absolutely
a new quality kit.
Yeah, definitely. There's other things to do.
I mean that kind of circles back to what we were talking about earlier this week about the 71 Mustang.
Yeah.
Right? So the MPC kits, the AMT MPC kits are now obsolete, just like when Revell did the 69 Chevelle.
Yeah.
The AMT kits, the only reason why you would want one of those AMT kits now is the convertible.
Yeah.
The coupes are just, why would you want those anymore?
I know, and I got a bunch of them, and I literally am like, shoot. I guess I'll make some bomber stock cars out of them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's
good use.
What the heck? Got them. But I mean, if you want to do something like that, there's a whole bunch of cheap alternatives out there for a 69 or 69 Chevelle now. If you're just wanting the body to do a bomber stock or out of it.
Oh yeah.
Whatever. But yeah, and boy, oh boy, that when Revell did that, and that was right before Hobbyco dropped off the cliff and shattered at the bottom, and this new company out in Germany bought them. I'm glad they continued on because that's when they were working on the 71 Mustang, and they had just come out with the 68 Chevelle. And I remember I did a review of that 68 Chevelle when it came out, and I predicted by something that I saw they did in it, and I go, oh, they've totally designed. They totally designed this to turn it into a 69.
Yeah, the way the body was designed, how different parts go together, you could tell. It's like, okay, they're going to do another version. And like when
didn't think they were because the sale, but no, they did come out with that 69. Thank goodness.
So I'm sure you probably did the same thing when you got your hands on the AMT 68 GTO. Did you also look at the box contents, the way the trees were laid out?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's going to be another version of this coming. There's like the way this is designed, you can tell something else is coming.
There's gates. And yeah.
How soon or later that's going to be, who knows? But there are other versions baked into it. But I mean, that's certain people at round 2 have been very open about this. And I've heard this from other manufacturers in the past, like from Revell and from Mobius, that With current market conditions, to develop a brand new kit from the ground up, there has to be multiple building variations baked into the tooling, because to tool up a brand new kit that is only one version in a box is
Yeah.
not going to be a good return. You can't
Eh,
make money off it.
Yeah, you're talking about in the neighborhood of $250,000 or more to do a ground up tool up.
Yeah, to do
And
like to do a complete kit.
yeah,
Yeah.
and to sell
And
these kits, and everybody complain, oh, they're $40 now. What, $250,000, and the sale of a repop reissue, they still got to pay for the retoolings and all that stuff. That also, you got to, you can't look at to pay for, say, the retooling of the what I thought were fantastic, the Vegas. When they came back out with those Vegas, people who complain, because the chassis was the old style. Oh, it's so they that junk. No, look at what they did do. If you compare to the original kits, these new ones are, the bodies are just, oh,
don't
so
don't you have a
more
video or two
accurate.
about that?
A couple. And the thing is but the money that the money that they spent on retooling all that, they don't depend on just the sales of that kit to pay for that. They also depend on the sales of stuff that they didn't even touch, they just reshot, that everybody feels those molds are been long gone paid for. You should be selling them much cheaper to us. Yeah, that's thinking a lot of yourself. No, they got to pay for all that. They that's how they
Oh yeah.
generate money, and it's like Rick says all the time. Rick Salvino's JR Models, some of the people that complain about them doing the modern NASCAR, and he goes, we wouldn't be able to do all the old stuff and continue on and tool up brand new old stuff like the 71 Roadrunner they did. That would have never happened if it wasn't for the deal with NASCAR to do the new kits.
Yep.
And like you said,
Exactly.
when they do them, they design them to be, as you said, I like that term, baked in. They have
Yeah.
other versions baked into a particular model kit, so they share the same chassis, or you have to do that.
Yeah.
You
It's the
have you
only
have to
way.
get the most out of a tooling that you can, because every sale pays for the new one that they're going to be doing, not just the sale of that kit. And it's just like, well, it's business, and a lot of people don't look at things from a business money standpoint, and they just think
Right.
they should just do it. It's the right thing to do because
Oh yeah.
my model will be
Well,
better.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh,
unfortunately,
I'll get hate
doing
for this.
things the right way doesn't always make sense from a business standpoint. And
No.
I mean, there's a difference between being able to understand the business case behind why things are done a certain way, um, to look at that detached from how you may feel about it as a model builder, and it's like, oh, I really want this. Why is
Yeah.
this way? I understand why it's this way, and while I'm not necessarily a fan of it, I can support why it's done this
Yeah.
way, because by doing it this way, this company is going to stay around longer. They're going to be able to sell more kits. And
Isn't
I
that what
mean,
we want?
right. And so, something else that I always kind of I get a kick out of it when I look at things this way. Um, everybody, okay. So for example, Round 2 does their videos every month of everything that's coming out. And sometimes when you look at what people are saying about those videos and the comments on, what's coming out this month, it's like, oh, there's nothing in there I want, and it's like, oh, I just want to skip forward to the model kits. And all of these companies, well, with certain exceptions, I actually, I don't even know if anymore there are any companies that exclusively build, or sorry, their product portfolio is exclusively tailored to what our chosen interest is,
Yeah.
right? So all of these
Probably the
companies,
probably the closest one would be Salvino's JR Models is, but they're
right?
also
Well,
but and Rick will even say we're just a small boutique little tiny company. We're not
right.
we're not
But
AMT. We're not round two.
I like personally for me, I'm all about the NASCARs that
Yeah.
Salvino's is doing. The IndyCar that's coming out, I don't really have so much interest in it. I understand why they're doing that because, as stated from the get go, day one of Salvino's JR models, they want to be producers of all forms of American automotive racing. So they
Yep.
want to do everything. But all these other companies, you start talking about Round 2, you start talking about Revell, and the Asian manufacturers like, Academy, Tamiya, they have a huge portfolio that includes, automotive, our chosen subject, aircraft, armor, floating
Yep.
things, flying things, wingy things, all of these, all of these other
And
things
some
that,
self-propelled and RC and stuff.
right.
Yeah.
So, they're not going to be able to, there's every time that they come out with a new batch of releases, there's going to be stuff that not everybody is going to be interested in. I I don't know that there are a whole lot of their buyers that are interested in every single product that they put out.
Yeah.
I
Obviously
I
not.
think there the overlap between somebody that's going to buy everything a model company puts out every month for every subject is probably pretty small. They're not counting on those kind of sales.
Yeah.
So they got to, every time that they want to do a new tool or a reissue, a modified reissue, tool up new parts, they're trying to gauge on what they're going to be able to get a good investment on. And so maybe for this year, it's like, okay, we have in our budget for this calendar year to tool up 3 brand new kits. And we have a huge portfolio that includes everything. So, this year we're going to do a whole new plane. Next year we're going to do a whole new fighting vehicle. This year we're going to do a whole new car. So, if you look at it that way, you can start to understand why they're not going to have brand new ground up tools every year for everything. And in order to finance that kind of stuff, they got to do these reissues. And I, I don't. It's always interesting to me when you consider the amount of research that they would have to go through. It's like, okay, these are the kits that we have available and that are in good enough condition that we can produce. Okay, out of this subset of what we have available, what would sell if we produced it? Because for any given kit out of the catalog, you're going to have people that are clamoring. It's like, oh, I really wish that they would reissue this kit I really, really love it. And if they produced it, I'd buy a whole case of them. It's like, okay, so that's 12 sold. What about the rest of them? Who's going to buy it? Is it going to
Yeah.
sell? Right? And I mean, yes, when you look and compare the difference between what a run is for a kit now compared to 40 years
Oh,
ago, 50 years ago,
totally different. Totally
right?
different.
Like, take, for example, the Monogram NASCAR kits. When Monogram was producing them, they were doing runs in what, tens of thousands?
Yeah.
There are issues. I can't think of, maybe you can think of one, but I know in the 90s they would do like a special, limited edition run, it's like
Yeah.
only
Yeah. Yeah.
5,000 produced. And it's like, only 5,000 produced? When Salvino's runs those same tools now, they only do 1,500 of them,
At a
right? Like,
time.
that's
Yeah.
the entire production run.
Yeah, of
So
whatever kit that. Yeah, they might have a bunch of Monte Carlos, say, 80s Monte Carlos, but they'll only do 1,500 of the Bobby Ellison one, or
right,
yeah, and a lot of even round two, everybody's kind of doing it. They don't do the long, extensive production runs that they used to. Even
right,
Tamiya, everything is done on a limited run nowadays. We
right.
don't have it's a common kit. It's like I think of all the common kits that I go, I'm not going to buy, like said 93 Mustang Cobra. They were all over the place. They were always there. So I was like, I'll get one later. I'll get one later. And then even the 66 Malibu flip nose that's been produced since the early 70s, whenever that kit came out. They made thousands and thousands of them, right? Then all of a sudden, woof, gone. And
Gone.
it used to be a kit.
Yeah.
It was always there. We don't, now, if you want a kit that comes out, you better get it, because when it's gone, we're gone.
Right. Well, and that kind of brings me back to another topic when it comes to our curating of our collections.
I like that word better. Let's go
When
with that for now.
a kit comes out and you like it, um, especially if as the kit is issued, it has multiple building options in the one
Yeah.
release. You get multiples of it,
Mm-hmm.
and then when like my go-to example for this kind of mentality is the new tool Revell Model A Fords. So
Yes.
they did the Roadster and they did the Coupe. They did different versions of those, and then the the tooling disappeared. Something happened to it. It was damaged, and they ended up having to retool either the whole thing or a significant portion of it. And so it was gone from the market for a couple of years there. And everybody thought it's like, oh, this is never coming back. And the prices just kept going up and up and up. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'm glad I got multiples of these when they were available, because
Yeah.
they won't necessarily be available again.
Yeah, exactly.
So those of us that are able to collect these kits, curate them for a while, I mean, when the day comes that you want to build it, or if you want certain parts from it, you have that available to you. Or if you find yourself in a situation where it's like, oh man, I really want this shiny new kit that's coming out, but I can't justify the cost of it. Oh, wait a minute. I have a couple of those kits, that everybody's really, really wanting these days, and they're paying a lot of money for it. It's like, oh, I'll sell a
And
couple
I
of
paid
those and
$10
get
for it.
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I buy that for $1.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sometimes we can finance our addiction with our addiction.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Self-sustaining in
yeah,
small ways.
self-sustaining. And then another thing is, like, my daughter is very aware. She grew up in this, and Felix is getting really aware. Today, I said to Felix, he's really super getting into models. He's really interested. He likes cars. He loves Hot Wheels, and he wants to build. Like, he's driving me nuts today. I bought him a new model today of a dinosaur, a Bandai. We were at Andy's, and he wanted it, so I got it. So when we get off here, I got to go build that with him. He's looking forward to it. But I said to him, one day I think I'll leave all these to you. Do you want all these model kits? And he went, what are you gonna, if I give you all these model kits, not right now, but one day, if I give all these model kits to you, what are you going to do to them? He said, build them.
Because it's fun.
Because it's fun. And he, but there's that, or the fact that, like I said, my daughter knows the value of these, and this will help her out. This is like a part of her inheritance. It could be a pain in the neck for her, but she's aware of the value of things, and she knows what to do, whether she sells stuff separate and what the value of these things or that thing is, or she kicks it off to a collector and just $5 a kit. There's 3,000 of them in here. It'll be a good chunk of money for her, you know.
Well, and
Three
I
thousand.
and I
I did a count and I almost cried. Yeah, I got about 3,000 kits.
well,
I've been doing it for 38 years.
well, and see, these are another things that that not everybody thinks about on first glance. When you
Yeah,
see somebody with a large collection, it's like, okay, how long have they been collecting? Right? It's like, okay, sure, we may have a lot of kits, but it's not like we went and bought 100, 200 kits in a year. Well,
yeah.
maybe.
And a
But
lot of them we bought them when they were cheap too and available.
yeah, when you buy them when they're cheap and when they're available. But when you're talking about like a decades long interest in a hobby and it takes that long to collect all of this stuff, um, you accumulate it because despite our best intentions, we always, acquire them faster than we build them. So that there tends to be a little bit of a mismatch between what's coming in and what's going out.
Yeah,
But something that uh, a lot of people of a certain age don't take into consideration, um, and I guess hmm, I won't go as far as to say that the overall demographic for our hobby skews towards the older end. I would say that what we see of the people in the hobby towards the older end of the spectrum is because those are the ones that have the time available to be able to do more than just build. So the people that have the time to, be involved in communities, whether it's in person or online, um, aren't necessarily going to be the ones that are making the most purchases or the ones that are building the most.
yeah.
Um, because I like to say that our hobby is it's multiple hobbies all bundled into one. So there's the building of the model cars is one hobby, the collecting of them is another, the researching of them is yet another, the
Yeah. That's
community
that's fun.
involvement when you talk about them, when
Yeah.
you sit around and talk with your buddies or go to shows, it's like, oh, that's a whole nother hobby altogether. So
Oh yeah.
not everybody has the time to be able to invest in all of that. And how many times have you encountered somebody, whether it's like a fellow YouTuber or when you talk to somebody at a show and it's like, how many times do you hear it's like, oh, I didn't know that anybody else did this. It's like, I thought I was the
Oh,
only one
uh,
that,
yeah.
that, so a lot of people don't know that there's this wider community and that there's so many people that are involved in it. So taking that into consideration, that most of the people that have the time to delve into the communities involved with our hobby, um, and I'm sorry, this is like a huge rambling rant sidebar, but
That's the
um,
beauty of podcasting. Go for it.
the
That's
the
what
the
we're here
people
for.
that are most involved in talking about the hobby will be the ones that talk about, the people dying off that have all of these collections, and us younger folks that are involved in it don't necessarily take into consideration essentially estate planning.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if something were to happen, it's like it's one thing to have a huge collection and it's another to have that collection and not know what you have, to not keep track of it, to not have some kind of a notion of what it is worth. Because like you said, your collection is your daughter and your grandson's inheritance, and them being aware of it, how, like, what kind of a value would be associated with it, you know, there's always the old yarn that you see people saying every once in a while. It's like, oh, I really hope that when I'm gone, they don't sell it for what I told them I paid for it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's something, and I know a lot of I've had this conversation with a lot of friends of mine, modelers, and they all make sure that people are aware of how much it is. It's like I you hear the story, and there's so many people that like to throw this into that they're the haters that hate us, quote unquote, hoarders, because they're jealous. Really, is what it comes to. All that is. The thing is it's sad because one day all that stuff's going to end up out on the street, on the curb of the street, and get thrown away. And that's just sad that you do that. And you should just sell that stuff off. Like to me, because that, and it's just like, what makes you think that our families or people that are close to know that we've made it clear what the stuff is worth, or you know
Right.
back in the olden days when a married couple really never talked. Yeah, that happened, when the wife was like, and she was miserable, and couldn't stand that her husband was doing this, and it's just like she resents it, so she throws it all out, which is absolutely ridiculous, realizing you just chucked about $20,000 away, lady. And the chances that happen, it's like the recent, over the past couple of years, the recent collections that Andy bought. Some people would say he was wrong, or any. It's not. I'm not gonna single out, because this is how it works when a buy sell thing. You always buy low to sell high. It's a business, and it's a service to when someone passes and family members have to let the collection go. They don't have the time to sell things singly. So
No.
yeah, it's basically a thing when someone comes to Andy, it's like, how many kits you have, I don't care what it is, how many kits that you have. It'll be, whatever the price is he lays down, which is it'll be a low price, where there's kits in there that could be worth $100, $200, but there's also a bunch of duds too. But
Hmm.
but the buyer is taking on the responsibility of, now but they have the place and the means to sell it off. Where someone who gets a collection like this, my daughter wouldn't be able to sell. She might take a chunk of it. There's some of the real high end stuff I could see her selling on eBay and making the good money, but the rest of the collection, she won't worry about. If it's $5 a kit, it's a but that $5 a kit ends up being 10 grand in her pocket, or $15,000. That's the big chunk of money. People think, oh, you bought that collection and only paid $5 a kit to the guy who's selling, and then you're selling them to us for $20, $30, you bastard. It's like, did you have $20,000 to hand the widow, who
Right.
now can bury her husband, has some cash in her pocket? She's happy. She doesn't have to deal with it. It's done and over with. And the stress of having the memory there, that's something I don't want that in the house. I want to move on. I got to move on in life. So it's not a
Yeah. Yeah.
bad thing. There's people, those families. I've talked to those families when Andy was doing those deals. It's like, no, they're totally aware and they don't feel wronged. It's like, no, I feel real grateful there's someone who will buy this whole collection right now. And I'm getting a huge chunk
Yeah.
of money
I
in
don't
my
have.
pocket.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about trying to do it
And
piecemeal
and then
or.
on and
Yeah.
then on the other side, um, so say a kit is bought for $5, but it gets sold for $30. But lots of times you find that kit, and you've been looking for that kit for a long time, and every time you find it, it's on eBay, it's $60, $70, and you picked it up for $30, $40 from the guy who bought an estate, whole estate. Not everybody has a smile on their face on that. It's all a positive thing. I don't know
Yeah.
where I got going on this rant. You send me on rant. You're really. I tell you, I have discovered something. It's our first time really sitting down and having a nice face to face discussion. Is you definitely are get me going. You get me talking about these things. I mean, it's fun. It's fun. The whole. I mean, I just love this hobby so much. Everything about model cars. It's been such a huge part of my life. I love it when I meet people like you that feel the same way. And what's been fun about talking about this stuff with you is you love that research and that history. of a said model kit and how it went down the line. And so I think that, that website you got going, the Sprue, all of you out there, if you haven't checked that out, you got to. Again, link will be in the description on that. And also Chris's website, your YouTube channel. When you get that kicked off, I'm sure you're going to do some really cool things with that. And I think we got other stuff that could be happening. But
Oh yeah.
Chris, I want to say thank you so much for coming on and doing this. We've been talking about this for a while. Thank you so much for being a longtime supporter of mine, being one of the producers. His name is always at the end of these videos. It's going to be at the end of this video, you guys. If anybody else wants to be a producer, go over to my Patreon. What the heck? I haven't plugged that in a while. But I have like about 20 producers that have been with me for a while, like you, all of them. Oh, they're all friends of mine. They're all friends of mine. I love anytime I get a chance to correspond with them, and I take a lot of input. I mean, you've given me ideas for videos, Chris, Dave, all of them. George Oppenheim. He's always putting in. So everybody. The producers are great, and so before we take off here, why don't you go ahead and plug your stuff, man? That's what you're here for. I want people to find out about you.
Well, thank you very much for having me on.
Oh, no problem,
and
man.
giving me the opportunity to yak your ear off for a little bit.
That's fun.
But if you want to read up on some kit history articles and some reference materials, you can check out my website, the Sprue, sprue.xyz, and you can find me on YouTube with Model Car Review.
All right. Let's get the screen fixed here. There we go. I'm back. Well,
oh, there you are.
So here we are at the end of this, and I still have this tradition over years, as you probably know. Being a producer, I always put the guest on the spot to close the show out with saying, "Can you do it? Do you know it? Do you remember it? You want to go for it?"
Why do we build model cars? Because it's fun.
Oh, you went with that one.
Keep gluing your fingers together. Keep cutting that styrene. And I'll see you on the next video. Here's the producers.
Oh my God, he had it all. Yeah, that's professional. Wow. So everybody, right before we started recording this show, Chris and I got into a really cool conversation. So I'm going to put this at the end here. Check this out. This was pretty interesting. So I figured it would be something really good to have on this podcast. Enjoy.
I know there are reasons behind why they may or may not do this kind of thing. And then I also kind of have to wonder what the reasoning is for why companies do this. But one thing that I've noticed, so I don't know if you want to call it the attempt to rebirth of Heller. So now that they're owned by this German company, they're really putting out a lot of marketing effort, and they're trying to grow their brand again. And to the point, so last year, my local model club, we had our first show in like 3 years because it kept getting canceled due to the pandemic and everything. But Heller actually sent them a whole whack of promotional materials. So like there was catalogs and postcards and stuff,
really?
and a few donations of kits. But and I actually won one as a door prize. And on the packaging, I can't remember if it's only on the box or if it's the box and in the instructions, but it specifically says, this kit was tooled many years ago, and therefore the quality of the parts or something to that, where it says the quality of this kit may not be up to modern expectations.
Yeah. So isn't it sad they got to do that?
Well, I don't know if they have to do that, but they do.
Well, they don't have to, but I bet you they decided to do that because they know that there's going to be this backlash. Like,
right.
Because they probably have seen it. And so, that's too bad they have to do that. To me, it's like.
Well, and see, this is why I'm kind of, it's like, okay, that is really interesting. I'll put it that way. I won't say that it's
Yeah,
good or that it's bad, but that it's interesting. And I wonder if that kind of an approach would work, or would be a good or a an evil in when it comes to round two and their issues. Right?
I
So it's like,
believe I believe people still bitch.
right, but I mean, going into it, I guess that kind of takes one arrow out of
Yeah,
their quiver of things to bash them about. It's like, okay, here is a release, a new release, and maybe that's kind of one of the things that a lot of people that may be new to the hobby don't quite grasp yet, is
yeah,
that when a model kit manufacturer makes an announcement list, it's like, okay, here's all the stuff that we're coming out with in this X amount of time. It doesn't mean that everything is brand new tooling, right? It's like, okay, here's what we're coming out with. This kit is a brand new tooling. This kit is a modified reissue. We changed some parts. This is just a straight run through of a kit that's been around since the company was founded, but we've got new decals and modern plastic, right?
yeah.
And I think a lot of people are under the assumption that it's like, okay, here's the new releases for, February 24. Okay, but that's not all brand new stuff.
No,
It's new plastic or whatever. And I mean, that's the kind of thing that Rick Salvino talks about when they do a new release of the monogram toolings, right? He's like, oh, I hate that term, reissue or repop. And he's
reissue,
like, no, this
repop.
is a
Yeah,
brand new kit with an all new decal sheet and modern plastic and everything like that.
yeah.
But
Very true.
when it comes to, I don't know if you want to say it's industry parlance or, it's what the community calls it, but it's like, okay, that's a reissue. Like that's been issued before. This is a new boxing. And yeah, I mean, it's no
Yeah,
comparison to what was available before, but, it's the same kit, just in a new box.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. And you know that uh, here's another example of that is Andy recently got in a bunch of Fujimi, and that no good so and so he got some Porsches in. Of course, I had to buy one of them, but these were like old. There was the nine, the 70s 930 in there, right? Um, and that is, and it's the old, good thing that they don't come sealed. I could open up the box and take a look at it, and it
Yep.
was it was the old enthusiast kits from the 80s, which were amazing back then.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
still an
yeah.
amazing kit, and I have a few of those kits, and I'm like, I absolutely do not need this 911 kit, but I want it, and I'm still thinking he still has one of them. I'm still thinking. I was over there today. I'm thinking about buying it because it's newer plastic. As if you remember, the plastic was, oh boy, the Fujimi plastic back in the 80s was, it just felt like it would shatter in your hand. It
Okay,
was
yeah.
beautiful and it was very shiny, but it was very, it could crack real easy. This was all new styrene, so it was better. And they had put one thing that I think the one weak thing in those enthusiast kits, I didn't like the wheels and tires. I thought they were a little too small in that kit. They had new wheels and tires. Plus the wheels in the old kit, they were trying something cool and they had lugs on the.
Yes.
You remember that? Well, now the wheels had the holes in. Well, the wheels have the lugs in the wheels,
Oh,
so you
okay.
don't you don't have that deal where you just have a little stem sticking out of your wheel when you put your model together. So um, it they improved the kit, but it's an old kit. So
Yeah.
our to me, I mean that's a great, that's taking an old kit. To me, that's a new kit. On, like I said, I have two original issues, and I'm thinking about buying that just because that'll be. I'd rather build that one than one of the old ones, and
Well,
that's
and
how I
that
feel
I
about the
guess
Savino's kits.
well, and I mean that kind of gets back to say a Matthew Inman approach to modeling, where it's like, oh, I really like this model of this subject. whatever it is. And I have this vintage kit in my stash, but I don't want to build it because it's a vintage kit. Oh, they
Yeah.
reissued it. Oh, I'm going to buy the new one and build that one, keep the vintage one, just to
Yep.
keep having it.
Yeah.
And as much as
I do that
people
too. I
will
love that.
well, and as much as people will complain about, you or I about, everything that you see behind us, it's like, okay, yes, but
Greedy bastards.
the only reason why some of these, vintage kits are available for you to even know about and have the opportunity to purchase and build is because of people like us that hang on to them for
Yeah.
so long, right? Because I
Yeah.
mean,
Exactly.
this
Uh,
this kind of stuff, like a vintage kit, isn't going to sit on the shelf of a hobby store for 60 years. That is a horrible waste
no.
of an investment in resources to hang on to a kit that long. It's like, okay, that shelf space is valuable.
Exactly. And from the point of view of if we're talking about hoarders, uh,
Mhm.
which that's not really the right term for us, but the from the point of view of the hobby shops and the model manufacturers, as I know these people, Andy always said to me, which he's both now, is
Yes.
he loves hoarders because he goes, if everybody bought a model kit, built it, and didn't buy the next one until they built another one, we wouldn't have the industry. They wouldn't be making model kits. They wouldn't make money. They
Oh, yeah.
rely on maniacs like us who do this. The majority of these
Well,
models there, I probably bought off the shelf at a hobby shop over the
yep.
years, and there's many more around this room. And then again, like you said, but then I've also got opportunities. As a matter of fact, I was over at Andy's today, and we dug out. He had buried in the back. We were looking at him some hidden away leftover little gems from the past couple of collections that have come. He goes, "Oh," so we were kind of trying
Okay.
to figure out what they were. He was going to put them on the shelf and sell them, but yeah, it's like we wouldn't have those. Like one model, and I'm sitting here going, "Oh my god!" I'm trying to stop myself from texting him and say, "Just hold it for me." But he found a sealed the reissue that they did in 2018 of the Freight Iaconia Pro Stock Camaro, the 82 Camaro.
Oh,
And
yes.
why I have to, and it's still sealed, and that kit goes for like $50 now. And it's like
Wow.
I want it. They're hard to come by now. We don't know if they're going to come back. We don't know where the molds are. For all we know, Rick
Well,
Savino even said he might have them. He doesn't know. Atlantis might have them with what happened with that whole deal with Ravel. So we might never see those. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. And I've got a whole bunch of them over there. You can't see them. Probably best. But why do I feel like I got to have that? I'm like trying to stop myself from telling Andy I want that one. I'll come get it. But yeah, it's the illness. But again, that kit, if there wasn't someone who bought it and hoarded it, if I needed one, or I'm actually like sending the message out to a few other people, like you were wanting with that who didn't get the opportunity, who weren't in the hobby back then when those things were plentiful. Were you wanting one of these? I haven't gotten word from anyone yet. So, but that's the thing. You get something like this. I finally got this was a kit that I was wanting.
oh,
I got
yes.
you know, and if someone didn't hoard, because this is from the 70s, if someone didn't hoard it, I wouldn't have it. Will I build it? I might. It might end up being in the possession of somebody else someday. Maybe some kid in 2070 will build that kit. Who knows? Who knows?
Well, and even to bring it back to, everyone's favorite punching bag, round two, with their whole cloning programs,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, bringing out these, new tool kits based on the original vintage tooling or whatever. Round two didn't have, like, the current incarnation of the company that sells kits under the AMT brand did not have those original kits.
Nope.
They had to go and find an unbuilt original tooling from somebody somewhere that's been hanging on to it since the
Yeah.
60s to be able to scan it to clone it, right?
And
So
yeah, and that's a hell of a lot of work and expensive, and they did it, and people are just not. Yeah, and yeah, it took a hoarder to, I shouldn't say hoarder. We aren't hoarders, but it took one of us, the curators, to have these kits, hoarding them. Keep saying it.
right.
For everybody got, like the 60 I'm building right now, that I finally got on that 68 GTO. I loving that kit. I mean, I'm
Oh
scrapping
yeah, it's
most of it,
great.
but I'm so glad they put it out, man. I wanted a 25th scale 68 or 69 GTO for the longest time. And not
Yeah,
now, I love.
the only
Yeah.
thing that was accessible to me until they did that was the Model King release of the funny car,
Yeah.
and that just gets you the body, nothing
Yeah.
else.
Yep. And that's a 69. I have one of those.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And for that reason, I bought it for that, for what I'm doing with the 68. That's what I was doing. That's what I bought the 69. I actually had two of them, and I know Chuck wanted one. I ended up giving it to him when the 68 came out. And I have another one that, I don't know, I was doing horrible things to the body. It's molested. But uh, yeah, it's just like you always, it's amazing some of the kits that, and it's been mostly round two. Some of the kits that are coming out, you don't even expect, or being re-released. You did never expect it. It's like, oh, fine, I like this demon. I feel so bad. I got let down when I discovered that one thing about the demon. I felt so bad about shitting on it. That's why I made a big apology. Because no, man, I'm so glad they did that. That's cool. Whatever, man. If they
Yeah,
use
yeah.
use the simpler outline, fine, whatever, man. We're model builders. We'll make it. I'll probably take that, and I'll bash that demon with a 71 Duster. Get the better
Oh,
chassis.
of course. I'm sure lots of people will.
Mm-hmm. Screw it.